They certainly are two separate things and are as different as the soul and the body. Think of it like this. The body without the soul is nothing but a dead carcass. So just saying these things without doing them is, in the same way, dead. The soul of true religion is the practical part. Pure and undefiled religion in the sight of our God and Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. James chapter 1, verse 27. Talkative isn't aware of this. He thinks that hearing and saying alone makes a person a good Christian. As a result, he deceives his own soul. Hearing is like the sowing of a seed. Talking alone isn't sufficient to prove that fruit is actually in the heart and life. And let's be perfectly clear. On Judgment Day, men shall be judged according to their fruit. And the one on whom seed was sown on the good soil, this is the man who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and brings forth, some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. Matthew chapter 13, verse 23. At that time, the question won't be, did you believe? But instead will be, were you doers or talkers only? It is by this that they will be judged. The end of the world is compared to our harvest. Allow both to grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, first gather up the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them up, but gather the wheat into my barn. Matthew chapter 13, verse 30. And you know how it is at harvest. Men notice nothing but fruit, and anything that is not of faith cannot be accepted. I'm saying this to help you see how insignificant the profession of talkative will be at that day. Faithful pondered Christian's words and said, "This brings to my mind what Moses described about the beast that is clean. Nevertheless, you are not to eat of these among those which chew the cud, or among those that divide the hoof in two, the camel and the rabbit and the shafan. For though they chew the cud, they do not divide the hoof. They are unclean for you. The pig, because it divides the hoof, but does not chew the cud, it is unclean for you. You shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their carcasses. These you may eat of all that are in water. Anything that has fins and scales you may eat. But anything that does not have fins and scales you shall not eat. It is unclean for you." Deuteronomy chapter 14, verses 7 to 10. Talkative is such a one who chews the cud. He seeks knowledge. He chews upon the word, but he divides not the hoof. He does not separate himself from a sinful lifestyle. But like the hare, he retains the foot of the dog or bear and therefore remains unclean. For all I know, Christian said, you have spoken the true sense of the gospel from these texts. And I will add another thing which Paul says. He calls some men sounding brass and a tinkling cymbal. And this includes those who are great talkers. If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I have become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1. He explains this further in another place where he describes them as things without life-giving sound. Yet, even lifeless things, either flute or harp, in producing a sound, if they do not produce a distinction in the tones, how will it be known what is played on the flute or on the harp? 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 7. He's talking about things without life, that is, without the true faith and grace of the gospel. Consequently, pilgrims who base what they say on such things shall never be placed in the kingdom of heaven among those who are the children of life. For the children of life remain true in what they say, as if it were the tongue or voice of an angel. Faithful scratched the crown of his head. Well now, I am sick of his company. What shall we do to be rid of him? Just take my advice, Christian said. Do as I tell you, and you shall find he will quickly become sick of your company too. That is, unless God touches his heart and converts it. What would you have me do? Christian gestured in Talkative's direction, just a little ways before them. Go to him and enter into some serious discussion about the power of true religion. Once he is agreeable to this topic, ask him directly whether this thing is set up in his heart, house, or daily behavior. Then Faithful stepped forward again and fell in line with Talkative. Hello, how are you? Talkative smiled. Well, thank you for asking. I'm well, though I did think we should have been able to talk a great deal by this time. Well, said Faithful, if you're willing, we can have some profitable discussion now. And since you left it up to me to come up with the topic, let it be this. How does the saving grace of God display itself when it lives in the heart of man? Talkative said, I notice that our talk must be about the power of things. Well, this is a very good question, and I shall be more than willing to answer you. So, accept my brief answer as follows. First, when the grace of God dwells in the heart, it causes a great outcry against sin. Secondly, no, hold on, Faithful stopped him. Let's consider each item one at a time. To make it clear, I think you should have said that it shows itself by persuading the soul to abhor its sin.